Hey, beautiful soul. Before we jump into the episode, I want to know, did you know that I have a completely free virtual new moon circle called Co-Create every single month? This stemmed out of a constant request for a space or a church that taught so many different spiritual modalities, tools, systems, beliefs, and I didn't have any place to send them. So I created it. In Co-Create, this is the space that I want to bring to you to learn how to create a connection to yourself, your energetics, and the divine in a community that won't make you feel like a weirdo. A space where you can ask any question you want, where we get to dive into so many systems and beliefs and tools, and you get to pick and choose what feels good for you. So you can learn what it means to truly co-create with the universe, God, source, for flow, trust, and surrender, to connect with other women who are spiritually curious in a space that's safe, sacred, and inspirational. It's your space for you to find your people and lean into new spiritual practices to truly co create with the universe or God or source or whoever you feel connected to. You'll gain tools and knowledge to understand what it really means to lean into the universal laws and become magnetic, all while being held by massive feminine energy. I've been hosting these free new moon circles for almost a year now, and it's definitely one of my most sacred spaces, and it's completely free for you every single month. Diana said that she made a promise to herself that she would work on her personal development and growth journey earlier in 2024. So I reached out to her and asked her for a testimonial to share with us. And what she said was Adriana's membership community and Co-Create has accelerated that and more. I have had multiple breakthroughs from finding a new career path, improving my mental health by reducing my anxiety and depression through journaling, meditation, and breath work, improving my physical health, doing walking meditations are my jam, strengthening my marriage and relationships, improving my money mindset, and just setting up a routine that complements my design. I've learned to embrace challenges as a sign of growth. I will continuously do my best to be in harmony with myself, with this world, and the universe. I have never felt so seen, heard, safe, and supported. Her community and Co-Create has helped me connect to my true authentic self, to move with grace and intention, to embrace everyone's uniqueness. And we each have a special gift and are collectively part of this world to show and share it this way. Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing all of your reflections and how Co-Create and my community has changed your life. And now I want to share it with everyone else. The link to register is in the show notes below. Even if you register for 1 month, you will automatically be signed up to be able to join every single month for as long as you're on the list. So you don't have to repeat it every month. You will always get on the list. You will always have the Zoom link available. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Now enjoy the episode. Welcome to the No BS Human Design Podcast. I'm Adriana Keefe, human design coach and motivational speaker. I went through my quarter life crisis in my 20s and had to learn how to navigate through finding what I was meant to be doing with my life. I refused to believe in the culture that said we were all meant to have the same path and boring careers until we retire and die. And along my journey, I found human design, a system that reveals your energetic blueprint, showing you where and how to access your body's consciousness and how to live as your true self. Human design changed my life, so I started sharing it with others and changing their lives, but we were all finding the same problem: a lack of resources that explain the system in easy and useful ways. So I created this show where we dive deep into the lessons of the human design system without the BS and the noise you find on the internet. Listen in for lessons in human design, finding your purpose, manifestation and spiritual practices, human design within business, and so much more. We connect with other experts in the human design and spiritual realm in a refreshingly honest way to help you find your way along your spiritual path and live this life with intention. It's time to let go of the societal expectations of being and let yourself find abundance through being uniquely you. Let's get started. Okay, so I want to hear a little bit from you with if you could walk away feeling like today was a total success, what would be that piece that you feel like you need for that to happen?
I feel like I just want to know and understand what the core wound is. I think that to me is
Mm.
the most interesting piece of things because I feel like I have a good understanding of where I excel, what I'm good at, and I think the rest of it as far as soul mission and purpose in life and all that stuff will fall into place, but I think that the transformative work is doing the painful work, is doing the hard work, is doing the deep work, and that only comes from understanding what that core hurt is and being willing to do what it takes to dive into that and really heal that piece of yourself.
I
So I
love
would
that.
love to know that today.
I love talking about the core wound vocation, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now, as far as basics go, type strategy and authority. I know you've been working at this for a little while now. And it's also really important that we have those pieces that we feel like, do we ever really truly have a full grasp on them? I don't know, because it's so like nebulous. But do you feel like you have a really great understanding of type strategy and authority, or would you like to dig a little bit deeper into that?
Let's dig a little deeper in.
Okay. Okay. So overall, you are a 3-5 sacral generator. We'll start with type. As far as being a generator, how does that feel in your body for what you know so far?
I was a little surprised to learn that this was my type because I do feel like I initiate a lot. But then as I kind of think about when I initiate things, I think it makes sense knowing that I'm a 3-5 too, that like experimenting is the way I'm kind of built and that doing a lot of different things and making a lot of mistakes is the way that I'm designed to operate. So I was a little surprised to learn that I was a generator, but I think it makes sense looking at the initiation being like part of experimenting piece
Mm,
of things. So
that is so true with being a line three for sure. So, with being a generator, do you feel like you have that sacral energy where you feel like you can work almost limitlessly on the things that you really like, or does it feel a little stuck and tiring?
no, I absolutely feel like I know when I want to do something because I will just like to the omission of everything else in my life, solely focus on that and like lose sight of everything else and spend hours and hours on it. So yeah, I
Yes.
absolutely can tell when I'm in flow. That's what it feels like for me.
Beautiful. You got that fire in the belly. Okay. So then how about when it comes to responding? And instead of forcing, initiating, going out and doing that, what do you feel about responding so far?
I have mixed feelings about this.
Don't we
so
all?
I so I think there is, and I love that like quality about myself that I have the ability to take in information and assimilate it and kind of decide what I want to do with that information. That's definitely a skill that I feel like I've developed a lot in the last couple years that I've just been ignoring my whole life up to that point. But I do also feel frustration and this like wish that I was also someone who was just made to initiate, that I could come up with all my own ideas, that I didn't have to wait for an invitation to do something to do it. So I'm starting to peel back my understanding of
Mm,
that part of it and like what does that actually look like in my life, especially as a business owner. Like being
yes.
a like owning my own company, I don't have someone else to give me direction. I don't have someone else that's telling me what to do or bouncing ideas off me that I can then decide what feels good to me. I am the one who runs it. So I have to initiate
hmm
something. So just trying to understand how that layers together.
Yeah. So what that says to me is that there's a big piece missing with your source connection. What I mean by that is like when I first started learning human design, I had no spirituality, right? Like I didn't believe in anything. So it was really difficult for me to be able to sit there and think, okay, the right opportunities will come to me. Or if I have an idea, something outside of me will almost like validate that and tell me that's the right place to go. So, my question for you would be, how connected to something bigger do you feel?
I think this is a growth area for me. I definitely would say that. Like, I think for sure in this last year, this has definitely been the year of exploring what that looks like for me, what that means to me.
Yeah.
I've never had a very deep faith, I would say. Like, I was raised Christian, but we were non denominational, never went to church. Like, it was not an integrated part of my life, but it also never really resonated with me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel connected. And I didn't have another place or way to really explore what else there was. And the other things I was exploring were really coming from a place of rebellion and frustration and like
This is why we connect
the
so
system.
much. Yes.
Yeah, so I just went into like Wicca and this kind of stuff right out of
Yeah.
like, oh, let me just learn all the things that like everyone hates about everything and let me just
Hmm.
be that anti all of it
Yep.
person. Which didn't like it was very interesting and it sparked a lot of curiosity in me about it. And I'm kind of circling back to these earth-based practices now as an adult coming from a more mature mindset. But at the time, I think because of the energy I was bringing into it, I didn't get any connection
Yes.
from
Right.
that either. But it now is feeling different to me. The experience of it feels different to me now that I'm coming from a place of I want to understand what feels good to me, what feels aligned to me, what feels spiritual and connective to
Mhm.
me and integrates me into the bigger fabric of the world.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Beautiful.
that
That, I
was a long
mean,
answer.
no, it literally it makes so much sense why you feel resonant with not just human design, but my work specifically, because we have very similar paths that we've gone down. So responding really, I mean, anyone's authority really is, it's a divine concept, which the mainstream teachings don't teach you. And so when you're saying like you don't want someone out there to tell you what to do, it's actually not really that at all. You likely have a lot of these ideas. The goal is because we have so many ideas, right? Like you have an open head center. Where's my mouse? And an open ajna. So I would bet that your ideas are fucking flooding through your head all the time. And it's like, what do I do? Which one do I pick? Especially with having a defined root center, you feel the pressure to do, and then the overwhelm with all the thoughts, the things in the head. So it's not that you are waiting for someone somewhere else to tell you what to do. It's that you're allowing the universal energies to guide you to what feels like the easiest access of energy right now. So if you have an idea, like one day you're like, oh, man, I really like to write a book. Before you just go out and try and seek it, you wait, which is the hardest part in today's society. We're so impatient, right? We want everything yesterday. So waiting could bring you all of a sudden one of your favorite mentors is like, I'm doing a new course on how to write a book. And then someone's like, hey, I know this publisher. I'd really like to get you introduced to them. Right. And so it's instead of you going out and trying to seek and Google and do these things, the universe hears your wish and is like, I'm basically going to bring to you the things that make the most sense for your timing right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So when you're
It still
going,
feels frustrating.
it,
Like, you
yes,
just hurry up and
because
tell me the things though.
yeah, you just haven't built that trust muscle with it yet, and that's
Um,
okay. I'm still evolving through that. I find myself pushing through the responding and being like, fuck, I'm frustrated. I did it again, right? But I promise you, the more you practice this and like keep track of your ideas, keep track of the signs, the synchronicities that come to you, you're going to build that trust muscle and it's going to feel like my word of the year is floating because that's what it feels like to me. It's like I have this idea, or maybe the idea hasn't even come to me yet. And all of a sudden, these signs just come to me. I don't have to go out and do anything. I literally can just float and know that the universe is going to bring me exactly what I need. But that does take trust, buildup of trust. So, as far as in business, yes, you could have a million ideas. What I would suggest doing is to write them all down. You should see the amount of brain dumps that I have in my notebooks. It's wild, like the full page every quarter. It's wild. And first, I will go through each and see which one really puts that fire in my belly, which one really feels like it will be so good and juicy to have done. Not always to do because the to doing part can feel uncomfortable and scary, but to have done. Does that give me like the sexy juices of the sacral, you know? And then I wait. I might pin a few things that feel like top tier to me, and then I see what comes to me that makes it easier. How is that feeling for you?
yeah, I think that feels honestly like a dream. Like I would just love to
It
live that life
is. Did
because
you
I
hear
do
my
feel
episode on the rebrand and how it literally like everything came to me? That's if you didn't already listen, go back and hear that because that is exactly like the floating sensation. It feels really good. It's
yeah.
supportive.
Yeah, because I can definitely feel like I resonate very much with like the pressure to do the things. And I think some of that is my innate design, and some of it is socialization and outside pressure that has trained us all to just live in hustle mode all the time. So I think it would just be really cool to be able to just like, when do I use that? How can I use that to my advantage? Because I do have
Yeah.
that gift. And how do I leverage that in a way that doesn't burn me out, that doesn't leave
Mhm.
me exhausted and drained? Right. And this feels just like a really good way to be able to do that, to just be able
Mhm.
to like lean into knowing that it's all supported and everything is going to happen the way it's meant to happen. And you don't actually have to hustle. You don't actually have to push yourself or like make yourself do all the time
Mhm.
to just materialize it. It can just happen. It can manifest in your life in a different way. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that feels
Yes.
really like good to me.
And it will take practice sometimes to spot the signs and synchronicities too. They're not always like these huge in your face things. It could be really small. But just start paying attention, start noticing, and then see how you can make your own life easier. And of course, there's a big part of the comparison struggle and the we should be more successful than we are. Like all of that is our own logical thinking brain. So putting that aside and letting your journey be your journey will be really, really important. Um, Allowing yourself to experiment, as a line three, more than like anyone else, allowing yourself to experiment and allow it to be a journey more than expectation or outcome is really, so like put that on a post-it note somewhere, anywhere. I post-it notes literally everywhere. What do I have right here? Oh, this would be nice, but I'm already good. Like a very like neutral energy. Like I don't have to want for anything.
Yeah.
If it would feel good, this is up to you. We can go through some of your business ideas and I can help guide you in the energy of it, or we can keep going on your chart.
Um, let's just keep going on the chart. This feels like, yeah, I think that to me, it just feels like the more I know about myself, the more I can trust my own intuition, the more that I can build that relationship with myself, the better all the rest of it is going to flow together. So I actually do have like full faith my business is going to be successful and everything is going to work out. Like I actually 100% trust that that's going to happen. I'm eternally frustrated in the process of waiting for it to happen. But I think that this will come from knowing myself better, that I can like let go of that frustration part of it.
Yes, that's why I love human design. It's how can I validate whatever I'm going through right now? That's so helpful. Okay, so as far as authority, your sacral, I know that you are very connected to like when you feel like you're very into something. How do you feel when it comes to making sacral decisions in general, though?
That has been a big learning curve for me, to just be able to quiet the expectations and all of that outside noise and really like distill it enough to understand what's actually my gut instinct and what is actually my cognitive pressure, like the
Mhm.
learned pressure that's coming from my brain versus like what do I actually want in the core of my being. So I feel like that has been a growth area for me for sure. I'm learning, I'm getting better at it, but I definitely still have some growing to do.
So you can feel the sacral response. It's about trusting it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And deciphering, when do I feel like the response is a yes because of those expectations, because I want to make everyone else happy, because I want to have
Hmm.
everyone else be comfortable, because I want to make sure that everything else flows smoothly, and because I think that other people are going to be upset if I don't. Like all of that outside social pressure that we all internalize as women, right? I just am learning how to not respond to that and understand when the response is really from me and when the response is from me because I'm trying to protect myself in the way that I've learned how to protect
Yeah.
myself.
Yep. And you've already done like a lot of shadow work and healing work. Like it's in your cards. I almost like I'm thinking I'm going to tell you to stop doing some of that for a while because what I would normally say here is, of course, there's a whole nervous system response that can happen too that can give you an incorrect sacral. But I don't feel that's happening for you. I feel like partly what you could be getting wrapped up in is something that I tend to get wrapped up in with the open head for sure and open ajna is like wanting something to be that magic bullet that just like all of a sudden everything clicks on, like even this chart reading, are you hoping it's that magic bullet that fixes everything that you're concerned about right now? So I find myself giving my own incorrect responses when I get to that place. And so if you find yourself going there, recognize it. Maybe if you need to journal on it for a minute and then come back to the body and say, does this still feel correct for me, even if the outcome was not whatever I want it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, the boundaries and all the things as a mom, yes. That'll just take time to build that trust muscle over. And that's something I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to spend some time this week. I mean, today if you can, but this week, reflecting on times when you like just trusted your gut and then it worked out. That's where you're going to start to really build up that muscle and knowing how it feels on the other side of trusting that can help you with boundaries a lot. Like I know I feel so much better when I don't go out after 9 p.m., when I don't have that glass of wine with my friends. And then you have something, a vision to hold on to that helps you hold boundaries in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So type, strategy, and authority. You're working on it. You've got it. It's just about building that trust muscle, right? Okay, and then profile. That would be the other top thing worth diving into with the 3 and the 5. How do you feel about your 3 trial and error energy?
When I read this about myself, was like, oh my God, this is like someone wrote a book about my life. Like, this is 100%
Hmm.
so true. And it just really gave me such validation for like, I really am someone who I just want to see what happens. I always just want to see what happens. I've always been that person who just really wants to always test the limits and push the boundaries and do the thing that's against everything else that everyone else is doing. And I really used to judge myself harshly for that. I think because everyone else judges people
Right.
harshly for that, right? So I learned to just be very self-critical of that and try to make myself be mainstream and like make myself do what everyone else is doing because this is what you're supposed to do, but that's not who I am. And I think there's so much power in knowing that I'm really just made to test the waters. And like, how cool is that I get to like just live a life that's all about testing the waters and just
Literally.
seeing what happens. Like, that's
Hmm.
so cool. I just feel so
Hmm.
blessed that like this is the way that I was made.
Yeah. And of course, that's gonna like feel like it goes back and forth with your initiating versus responding energy and all of that. But allowing yourself to play and experiment in ways that are just going to be easier and less use of your time and energy because you are also a mom. So you're gonna want to go and do all the things, try all the things, but then you might come back to being a mom and you're like, wow, I am spent and now I don't like who I am showing up as right now, right? So let the universe still guide you in whatever way you can for how you need to experiment. And then it sounds like you have a really good relationship with failure. Do you feel like that feels good for you? Like pick yourself back up, try it again energy?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is done like the last 2 years specifically. I've worked so hard on this. This has been like my core
Mhm.
focus area of my inner work is just how do I not be shitty to myself when I like
Mhm.
don't get what I want or things don't work out the way I thought they would or I like fall short in some way, right? Like how do I reframe that so that it's not a way to judge myself, so that it's
Yes.
not more of me being mean to myself and reinforcing all of this fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
So that's definitely been a big area for me that I've worked a lot
Yeah.
on.
Which
So
is
yeah.
valid in our society. It's like, oh, you failed. Well, then you're not good at it or you don't do it right or whatever it is. When really for you as a line through, you're like, ah, fuck, that didn't work. Okay, let's try the next thing. Let's see if this works. And then, ah, shit, that didn't work. And then you go back and be like, yes, this one worked. I want to share it with the world. This is what works. And that didn't work, but this is what works, right?
Yeah.
Because you are one of the very few who will actually go out and try it, do all the things. Um, my daughter is a 1-3, and we say to her, like, probably every day when she says, I can't do it or it didn't work, I'm like, oh, failure is so great. Like, just do it again, right? Like, we're trying to like get that in her head already because we know she's a line 3. It's going to come up for sure. Um, do you have any questions on your line 3?
And not that I can think of. I think, well, maybe can you say more about like letting the universe guide you on how to experiment?
Hmm. Okay. So I feel like this question is really like, but how do I just stop going and doing all the things, right? There's
Yeah, yeah. Because really
there's
looking
a
at like my life, right? Like half of my experiments were like, oh, this worked out great. This was like awesome. And I love where this came
Mhm.
from. And this was like great. And then the other half of it was like, oh my God, this could have like totally sabotaged my entire life. Like I just ruined everything I spent the last 5 years creating, right? Like it's
Yep.
just some of my experiments are not, they're not, they have their lessons, right? They all have their lessons. There may
Yep.
be experiments I'd rather avoid in the future.
This is so funny because for like the past 5 minutes, I've been like wanting to explain this part to you, but it felt a little bit like too premature. And then apparently both your guides are like, no, she needs to talk about it. So one of the other common misconceptions about trusting your design, following your authority, is that everything's going to work out easy peasy. That is not what we're here for. We are here to learn the lessons that our soul needs to learn. So, what the universe is actually guiding you into are the correct lessons and tests and trials and tribulations that you need to go through. Last year, I made a correct decision for my authority. It was a fucking disaster. And I now see exactly why I went through it. But in those moments, we're like, why did it lead me this way? This doesn't make any sense. This is supposed to have been rainbows and unicorns and butterflies, and that is not the truth. It is what is your soul here to move through? Is that making sense so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, a lot of the things that your line three energy, I mean, you in general, that you're going to go through are going to still feel shitty or not work or whatever. They're not supposed to all work. That would literally defeat the purpose of being a line three, right? Like, what's the purpose of the lab experiments if the scientist gets it the first time? So you're still gonna go through some stuff that doesn't feel like it was correct, and when you reflect on it, you're like, oh, but I moved through this, or I learned this, or I met this person. Is that answering the question that you have?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just noticing my own like perfectionist programming is still like
Right.
simmering
Yeah.
under the surface, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
like, but
Yeah, because
no, I'm not
the
okay with
real
that.
question is, but still, how do I know? How do I just go do the right thing instead of the wrong thing? That's kind of like the question behind the question, right? But the answer will always be that you're always doing the right thing when you're moving according to your authority and when you're experimenting in a playful way. Playful is key, and really reframing how you associate with failure or disappointment. It's all about that connection to disappointment. Um, is there anything else I need to say on that? So while your line three energy is very much going to want to go and do all the things and try all the things, that's kind of an incorrect use of the line three. The line three will still be satiated by the universe bringing you experiments to experiment on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have to really make it happen or try to set up an experiment.
Mhm.
They'll just find their way to me if they're meant for me and they
Right.
contain the lessons that I need to
Right.
absorb.
Yeah, easier said than done, but yes. Yes. And as you move through that, it'll start you'll get the hang of it. It'll start to make more sense. It's like instead of looking down at your planner trying to think up all the ways you could grow your business, it's how can you go play and have fun with your energy right now and allow the universe to drop those things to you and then you come back and see what feels really good for your sacral. That's kind of how it goes. Do you feel like that closed that loop a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like avoiding going there. I don't know why. And then guides were like, "No, she needs this conversation." Okay. Okay. Okay, so your fifth line, heretic, I would say practicality. What does that feel like for you? Do you what's the word I'm looking for? Connect with it or do you have questions on it?
I do feel like I am, yeah, like I think 3-5 is 100% how I like, I never had a way to describe it, but this is definitely how I live my life. That I'm very like systems oriented and also like throw all the systems out the window, like whenever they just don't feel good to me.
Hmm.
So, yeah, this feels like definitely the way I operate in my day to day life. I like to have some structure, I like to have some rhythms, not so much routines anymore, or like, I'm not someone who like blocks out their entire day. I don't write down when I'm gonna like take a shower and when I'm gonna cut my
Hmm.
nails, and like I don't do all of that, but I do like to have some kind of containment or some like general running list of what needs to be accomplished in the day or the week or whatever. So yeah, I think that being able to come up with systems and find systems that feel good to me and then get other people on board with those systems is something that I've definitely seen reflected in my
Yeah.
life.
Yep. My own human design mentor, she's a 3-5, and her slogan is human design made simple, because that's what the 3-5 is really good at doing, is like finding what works and then how can I turn this into a practical use for other people. And then it's just like literally everything you do is the messiness that you take and make it more simple and practical and easier to digest and understand. Um, Something I'm feeling called to explore with you about the fifth line is that it is a projection line. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay. So fifth lines, if you think about what your energy really does as a fifth line is you're a fixer, right? Like my husband, 2-5, can literally fix fucking anything by watching a YouTube video. So with this fixer energy, people can tend to see that, of course, it's subconscious. They don't technically realize they're doing it. They see you as the fixer in a good or a bad way. So they tend to lean on you a little bit too much, tend to project all of their stuff onto you a little bit too much. I mean, any projection is probably too much. So because you have that almost like riding in on a white horse, I'm here to save the day energy, other people around you are naturally going to overly project and lean on you to fix their problems. So you might have struggled with a lot of like friendships and relationships, and like, why do I keep finding people who just like dump on me, or what's wrong with me? We tend to see that as more of an immaturity, like young adult kind of time. So hopefully you moved through that if you found that happening a lot. But it's just something to know, and for people in your life to know. Like I'll find myself projecting onto my husband and I'm like, oh shit, I did it again, right? Like it's naturally going to happen. So putting up those boundaries and relationships especially is going to be really important for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I definitely feel like, again, this has been like another really big growth area for me to just not allow myself to be that person, not and to get comfortable with my own discomfort when I don't come to the rescue, when I don't
Mhm.
save the day, right? To just allow myself to be with my own distress or my own discomfort about what that feels like.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of times it does come from a place of, again, this like conditioned response of like, it's your job to fix everything. It's your job to save everyone. It's your job to make everyone else
Yep.
comfortable and feel
Yep.
good. Um, and I think too, maybe that was part of the pressure of, I spent my career before I started my business as a therapist. So my literal job was to like
Make
take
people feel
on
better.
stuff from other people.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
ingrained in you in all sorts of ways. Yeah.
yes.
Um, And it is really helpful. It's a very helpful energy as long as you have the right boundaries and you feel taken care of as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on profile?
Nope.
Okay.
That looks good.
Okay, before we dive more into core wound and all of that, I want to check in with how you feel about your centers and what you feel like your knowledge is about your centers, particularly your solar plexus. Is there anything specific you want to dive into there, or should I just riff off with what I feel like your guides are telling me that you need to know about?
Yeah, I'm just really new to all of this. So I'm just going to trust your guidance and spiritual guidance on this.
Okay. So when we're looking at your chart, we see that you have three centers defined, meaning you have a consistent access to the energy of these centers. The G center, sense of direction, self-love. It doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, but it's innately there. And then your sacral, we know what the sacral is for you. And then your root, this is like that consistent pressure, and it is like a pulsing kind of pressure and drive. And then every other center is open and or undefined, meaning you don't have your own consistent energy here. You're a lot more fluid. You're going to take in from those around you, kind of like taste test it for good or for bad. So another place where boundaries are going to be really important, especially when you were in therapy, because with this open solar plexus, this is where we have emotions, mood, spirit, consciousness. So you are a true empathetic person. Everyone has the ability to feel empathy, everyone's empathetic. But with an open solar plexus, you're actively taking on someone's emotions or mood in that moment, good or bad, and you're going to feel it heightened, amplified. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, that feels very true.
Yes. So where you could feel like someone is like so agitated that they're gonna like tear everything apart, and they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm just a little irritated. That's a great moment for you to recognize that whatever you're feeling it's theirs and you're going to feel it higher. So, how can you settle your nervous system? How can you feel more calm? How can you release their energy? But it can also work in beautiful ways. So, like, who do you really love to be around because their emotions and their spirit just feel so full of life? That can go too. So creating good energetic boundaries, clearing your energy, clearing your auric field, whatever vibes with you. There's literally like meditations where you can clear each specific center. Just shedding the emotions that are not yours, especially as a fifth line, is going to be really important. What's coming up for you with that?
Yeah, that has definitely been a more recent addition to my morning practice and my
That's
nighttime
awesome.
practice. I do a
Mm,
lot of yoga, meditation, that kind of thing. And I've started adding like energy clearing and just doing even just a little like I just release any energy that's not mine and like clearing that all out has just felt really good to me. It's created, I think, actually a physical change in my like quality of sleep and my like restedness, my
mhm.
general feeling of restedness. So
Yep.
I think it makes a lot of sense that if I've been unconsciously or not knowing to
Mhm.
myself, right, that I'm just
Mhm.
absorbing and holding on to all of these heightened emotions, it makes a lot of sense why clearing all that out would be so impactful for me.
Yes. Yep, exactly. It's just an important one to note as a partner, as a mother, right? Because we can take on everyone else's stuff around us. Even without an open center, you can still feel other people's energy. But for you, it's definitely that's the biggest like complaint slash question I get is around the solar plexus and feeling heavy with other people's emotions. So I love that you're already starting to take care of that intuitively. Okay. Anything else that's catching your eye before we dive into core wound kind of conversation?
Um, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm ready. All right. So this would lead me to the question I have to know. What is it that you're seeking through understanding your core wound?
I am really working on building a more empathetic relationship with myself.
Mm,
And I think that understanding what I am trying to protect myself from or what still feels scary to me or unfinished for me or is something that I have a sense that there is something in me that really wants to connect back to me that we just need to like come together and I
mhm.
don't have a way yet of finding that. So I'm just really exploring the avenues that become available to me to tap into those pieces that feel like they still need to be shielded, that are still kind of invisible to me. I just really want to start to shed a light on that and understand the parts of me that need me to see them.
I just have to point out that everything you just said is like such a defined G center kind of statement. It's like I just have this knowing, like this is it's like a clear cognizance almost of like this is the next direction I need to take. So that's very much your defined G working right there. So with our core wound, we find it in the design Mars placement. And it's also known as our vocation because, I mean, if anyone who loves their job that you've ever met, they all started because they moved through something, right? They healed through something, whatever they want to share that work with the world. So while this isn't going to specifically tell you exactly what your vocation needs to be, it's the essence of it. It's the energy. Um, all of that, well, that'll come through. So this, it's not going to give you one specific answer, but it is just more information to put in your tool belt. So yours is gate 56, which is housed in the throat center. So we know that it has to do with communication. And everything manifestation in the truest form. Like, how do I bring these things to life? 56 is a storytelling gate. So this is the gate of the wanderer. This is someone who loves to broaden their experiences, potentially travel. It could be physical travel, it could be mental travel. It's anything like you just don't like sticking around in one place or one project for too long. It's where else can I learn more, feel more cultured, tell more stories, or like collect more stories to tell. And sometimes they say with 56, it's like adding this dramatic embellishment to the stories too. It's like literally a storytelling gate. I'm getting this sense as I'm talking, so I'm curious what you'll say to this. I'm getting this sense that like you feel like nobody wants to hear your stories. Does that resonate with you?
I think what it is probably not so much that people don't want to hear it. I think it's my personal comfort with sharing it. I think that's more
Interesting.
of the block, if that's what it feels like to me.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense.
Or maybe like which stories, because I feel like I've lived
Hmm.
like 75 lives in the one that I've lived right now.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm just always reinventing myself. So there's always so much I could share.
Hmm.
And I think maybe it's like what is helpful, relevant, like what do I want to share, or what
Yes.
would be like furthering to whatever is happening right now that I can bring from
Yes.
my
That
vault
makes,
of stories.
yes. That makes
So
so
yeah.
much sense. So, okay. All right. I'm seeing how this is all coming together. So, with this being on the outside of your chart, we know that this is a collective energy. So, it's called the collective circuit. So, everything that comes through the 56th gate energy is here about helping to impact the collective in one way, shape, or form. And what you're talking about with, like, I don't know what to share. I don't know what's right to share. I don't know what's needed to share. This feels like, and this is the gene keys, this feels like the frequency of distraction. So everything has a shadow and a light to it. This is duality exists on purpose, right? And the gene keys do a really good job at showing the frequency. So more than just like the description of the gate, it's like, how do I know that I'm truly using this energy to my highest capacity? And the shadow of distraction feels a little bit like what you are explaining now. I'm distracted with, I don't know what to share. I don't know what's going to help them. Do I even want to share that much? Do I not? All of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a normal thing. We bounce between gift and shadow constantly, all the time, right? But the gift about enrichment and turning within. So, especially with this defined G center, you define G literally connected by the 214, which is epic. I love the 214. It's literally making money for the things that you love to do. It's directly connected to your sacral, so they're talking all the time, right? Your inner knowing, your clear cognizance, and your sacral. This feels really sexy, juicy to talk about. Go within. For every story that you could potentially, maybe this is more homework for you too. Like, where are all the stories in your life in general that you've learned lessons from? And then going through each one, turning within, which one would feel for you really good to share? And I'm going to expand upon the for you part because this energy of the 214 and the way that these are connected is an individual circuit. So it's about you. And then when you're about you, it naturally will impact the rest of the world, right? So, how can you turn within, make it a little bit about you and what feels really sexy for you to share? And in return, that's going to help the collective. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does the word enrichment feel like for you?
That feels interesting. That's an interesting,
It
yeah.
is.
So I had like mixed feelings come up is
Mhm.
yeah, it was interesting to observe because I thought that I was gonna have like a very like absolutely positive, like this is something I want. Like who doesn't want that, right? And I also noticed that I also come up with like, well, I shouldn't want too much of that, or I shouldn't like
Ah.
do too much, right? Like we
Mhm.
can't be greedy, we can't be selfish. So like
Mhm.
some enrichment is okay, some about yourself is okay, but like not too much of it. So
Mm.
that's interesting to see
Interesting.
that pattern.
Yep. And also, what I'm feeling from enrichment, now this is from my days in veterinary. When we would give the animals toys, it was called enrichment. Like, what are we giving them to keep them stimulated, right? And so I don't have the 56, so I'm speaking from literally intuitive guidance right now. The enrichment almost feels like how can I stimulate others through my own stimulating, playful life experiences. And that's what I feel that's actually what came up in your cards a lot was that you've done so much inner work that yes, it'll be a lifetime journey, but like stop for a little bit. Like just they're like let go, play. You already know is kept coming through. You already know. So whatever you're seeking, you already know. Let go and play. How can you create more enrichment within your life? And maybe it is that turning within. Ooh, you had that in your north node. You do. You have gate 2 in your north node, which is my core wound, which is what the magnetic rebellion is built upon. So the North Node, the theme of your life that you're moving into is the divine feminine, most receptive. How can I go inward? It's in the G center, right? It's part of that too. So everything is pointing you right now into like creating your own sacred practice for yourself and finding enrichment through that. What does that feel like?
Yeah. I think I think
Feel
I
like I'm
have
a little
more work to
overstimulated.
do, more work to do.
No, but it's less. It's
I
what
know.
feels so
Which is to
exciting for me and
God.
playful.
Oh, that is just like it's so interesting to feel how activating that is in my body that like I just
Mhm.
have so much like internal. I
Yep.
can tell that there's just like story here about like
Mhm.
how that's not okay. Like not
Yep.
being productive is not okay. And there's
Yep.
still, I've done a lot of work on that, but obviously it never ends, right? So, especially when you live in a society that continues to fill you with the same messages.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's very interesting to just see. But I do think that the sense of deeper fulfillment that I have in my life now is because I've purposely dedicated like the last specifically like year or 2 years to just being selfish, quote unquote, and just like
Yep.
focusing completely on what feels good to me. What do I want to do? What do I want to change? What do I want to create? What do I need to do like within myself to feel like a whole human?
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that that's what's opened up the door. That's what's made everything possible. That's what's created the ability to uproot a 15-year career and like go start a business and hope that it works
Yeah.
right? And like take the grand experiment and like
She
do all
feels,
the things.
she knows. You already know. Yeah. You already know. You just needed some support, which most of us do, in allowing yourself to follow that knowing. Yes. I love that the enlightened state, it's called the city. Don't worry too much about this because as you pay attention to the gift and how often you can feel like you're moving into that gift, this is like the afterglow that will come that people will feel from you. Intoxication, the divine entertainment business. Like, think about telling your stories in such a way that, wow, that actually feels really good for me. I don't even have the 56, but like, there's someone who I follow as one of my mentors, and I'm like, I feel like she's got to have this because it feels like divine entertainment through her stories. It feels like I'm like she's channeling and my frequency is changing as I listen to her. So that's the magic that you're able to move through and bring to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting because I definitely feel and like reflecting on it for myself too, like I feel like I am like riding a high when I'm like talking in a way that just feels so like descriptive. Like I'm just in it and I'm living it and it's just like flowing through me. And I can just like call it out into the world and immerse everyone around me in this experience of just like divine suppleness and
Yes.
sumptuousness, right? Like that just I can feel that in my body. I can feel when I'm in that zone and I can
Mhm.
feel other people feeding on that energy. So I love
Mhm. Yes. And I love that it's a Cancerian energy too. It's the life bringer, the nurturer, the caregiver. Because I see those qualities in you. I mean, your design is, oh no, your design's Leo. 23rd of July. That's like right after Cancer ends, right? So your design's Leo. Um, what's I gonna say? Oh, the other thing to note about your core wound slash vocation is it's a line 3. So remember, it's going to be trial and error. Just allow yourself to, as divinely guided as you can get, play with it. That kept coming up in your cards is play, 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 let go, surrender. Um, whatever feels sticky right now, it's because it's not something you need to work on right now. Does that make sense?
it. Mm-hmm.
There is something significant coming, but you have to let yourself play. What other questions do you have, especially around the core wound, but anything in general?
Yeah, I think I'm just processing. I'm
Mm.
thinking of like what does play look like for me? And like
Mm.
I think as an
I love
adult,
it.
right? Like we spend so much time like
Yeah.
doing the things and meeting the expectations and performing to everyone else's standards, right? That like we just lose sight, I think, of what that feels like or what it what it looks like now in this stage of life, right?
Mhm.
And how do you like continue to fold that in as you still have, right? I didn't always have a kid that I had to take
Yep.
care of. I didn't always have a business that I was running by myself, right? Like there are like the dynamics of our life are always changing, but there's always still an opportunity to bring in that element of fun and lightness and ease into it if you choose to look for it.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking about what does that look like or how could that manifest for my life now in
What did
this.
you do as a kid?
Yeah. I really loved horseback riding when I was a kid, honestly. That was like which
See,
I
we're
didn't find until I
twins.
was older, but like
Yeah.
it was really I think because it was just like such an escape for me
Mhm.
and a very immersive experience. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense with the way my design is too, that I just love to get like all up in the thing that I'm doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really love to do that. I really love to be outside and we still do that. Like now, I mean it's winter in Wisconsin. It's 100 degrees below zero
Yeah.
because we're not going outside right now. But but I think just more time like outdoors in the
Mhm.
sun and like in nature to me is very restorative.
Yes.
So I think maybe just doing more of that.
Mhm.
And I feel like too having, my daughter is 3 now, so I think it's just such a fun age because she has no inhibitions, she has no filter, she has no care for what anyone
Yep.
else thinks. Like she's just running
Wild.
around like crazy person and singing at the top of her lungs all off
Yep.
key and like making
Hmm.
up stuff. Like she's just always in her play energy. So I feel like maybe the benefit for me of having that like open solar plexus too is that I can draw on that and I can allow myself to lean into that and kind of like share that experience with her.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could be really
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. I want to encourage you to like hold yourself accountable. However, you can find ways to hold yourself accountable to doing something playful like at least every week. Like
Yeah.
have it as like a checklist on your schedule or your calendar or something like that. And then just have a running list of the things that make your energy feel really good. And then go through and see which one your sacral says yes to or what would feel good to have done. Dancing, even just like going to a dancing class, or it could be a dance fitness class or a regular class, right? Like generators, we thrive with practices that are sensual. So, essential oils, playing with those, cooking, using all your senses, movement, music, singing, whatever you can to start getting that energy flowing. Because you've done a lot of inner work. You have. And there will be a time to come back to that. And for right now, it feels like you aren't reaping the benefits of all the work you've done. Like let yourself let go a little bit and just have fun. Because when you are moving that energy and you're feeling really what's the word I'm looking for? Like at a high vibration, like a higher frequency, you are a lot more divinely guided. You have so many inspirational thoughts, and so many people feel that energy and get attracted to you. You're literally becoming more of a magnet the more you play and have fun. So,
Yeah.
however best you can, prioritize that.
Okay. I'll have to put some thought into that. I did actually just designate, I do like theme days during my week
Mhm.
to just kind of give myself again that like loose structure that I like to have. And I took everything off on Sunday. Like Sunday is play day. I literally like that's what I titled it. And my planner was like
Yes,
play day and there's nothing in it.
good.
So yeah, I'm really trying to lean into this energy a little more.
Hmm.
And yeah, I love that it's like come up again today. I think
Hmm.
it's just as a reminder, probably
Yep.
from my spirit guides too, that like this
Yep.
is really important for you and something you
Hmm.
really need to focus on.
It is. Yeah. And especially as your daughter's getting to that age where she's really going to notice you even more. Like, what's
Yeah.
mommy spending time on? How is mommy feeling? And I say that as someone who very much believes that it's good to let our kids see us cry and see us struggle while also like showing them how we move through that feeling and how we prioritize our happiness and what brings us joy for
Yeah.
sure. And then get on a horse as soon as you can when it warms up. Please get on a horse. That is like so nourishing to our souls. Oh my God. That's actually a message for me too. I'm like, I need to get back on a horse. All right, what time is it? Oh, we still have a few more minutes. Anything else specific on your chart, or should I go with what is intuitively calling at me?
Yeah. Yeah, you can just share.
Okay. Have you checked out and explored your sun gate at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
So, just like in astrology, where we have our largest imprint as our sun sign, you also have one in human design. It's a gate number that is activated within you. So, it's an energetic gift of yours, something that you bring to the table. They're also said to be lessons that we're here to learn, right? Because just like your core wound, we're not taught this stuff all the time. So, this is the energy that as you're walking around, people will naturally feel it from you, especially when you're in alignment. It is such a gift that you bring to the world. It's part of your life's purpose, a part of your incarnation cross, which is your soul's purpose here. Gate 50 is in the spleen. So we know it has a theme of health, safety, intuition, sense of survival. This is like the most primal center, basic survival instincts. And gate 50 is the gate of values. This is someone who, like, nothing matters more to you than upholding values to your family, to your workplace, to your community. You are naturally attuned to what's fair or what's unjust. Words are hard.
Mhm.
Unjust. It's a very nurturing of your tribe kind of energy. So, I mean, a lot of your energy is very tribal. It's like, how can whatever I do take care of my tribe? How can I create health, safety, all of that for my tribe? Let me see what the gene key frequency is for it. 50. Ooh, the shadow of corruption, but the gift of equilibrium, cosmic order. What does that feel like to you?
That feels so aligned for me. Honestly, that feels so accurate and true that yeah. I think this is
Interesting.
very much my vibe, very much my energy that I just really
Mm,
am always thinking about the greater good. And I think that that's just I feel in everything I've ever done, even going back to like childhood, right? Like it's always been about the greater good for me in some way. And I've always been just trying to figure
yeah.
out what that is to me. And now I think the layer of it is how do I do that by taking care of myself and by
Mhm.
being my own best support because you cannot nurture everyone else around you if you are not
Yep.
nurturing yourself.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That makes sense with you being a Libra. It's a Libra energy. It's how can I create this? But oh, you got a Libra. No, that wasn't your card. Um, and a lot of Aquarius you've got going on too, huh? I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Welcome to Aquarius season. So no, it's just paying attention to this in your day to day because this is especially when we want to like dive deeper into core wound. It's really important to also know like what's my biggest theme and energy here. So finding yourself going from corruption to equilibrium, the nature of self-organizing intelligence. I love that. That would be something great to reflect on and like how that feels in your body, what things you do that helps bring you back to that feeling of equilibrium, what happens that you feel that feeling of corruption or a bit lost in transcription. I was going to say translation, but it is transcription. And this is all about awareness and like when you're in your highest high, you're naturally going to feel this anyway, or harmony, the gathering of the Illuminati. Love that for you. I love that. But that's such an energy that you bring to other people around you, which is a really nice, calming. It makes sense why you were a therapist. It really does. I see that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any other questions or anything that you are feeling called to ask?
I am, I don't know. So this might be like a bigger conversation or something for
Mhm.
another day, but I am so curious because we're thinking about moving and I am thinking about moving because I'm always thinking about moving
A
because
bit
we've
of
been
the gate
living
of the
here for like
wanderer.
yeah, we've been like 10 years living here. I'm like, okay, it's way,
Time to
way
go.
past time for something new.
Yeah.
So we're like, I'm thinking about it and I'm like coercing my husband subtly to like think about it also.
Yep.
So I'm curious of like, how do I like know? And I don't, maybe you can't answer. Maybe I'll just know. Maybe you can't answer because I have to know what I know. But like, when is it a good time to make these like big decisions or like big moves?
That's a really great question. First, especially because this is your core wound, but really for anyone, but especially you, I'd ask what the actual energy that you're seeking is behind moving before anything else. Because it might not do have to do with your physical location. It might just be that something in the house feels like stagnant energy or that like there's something else that you need specifically that the rest of your family doesn't. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So like whatever that is you're seeking, especially as that wanderer energy, it could be that you just like need a vacation alone somewhere. I don't know how feasible that is, but something to expand your mind. The second piece would be allowing responding to work for you here. So you'll know it's the right time when all of a sudden maybe this really beautiful, epic, like dream home comes on the market. Or you meet someone who's like, I'm a real estate agent. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then you wait and see what else starts to line up. So remember, the pieces will start to line up for you. And yes, your claircognizance, that G center is will know as well. And it will feel more like a grounded knowing than like a headspace. Like, I want to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it probably is right now being prompted a lot by my like we've just been stuck like here.
Mhm.
We haven't gone on vacation or like done anything since like 2019, right before COVID, right? We
Oh,
had like
girl.
COVID plans and I'm like, "Oh, this is killing me. It's literally killing me."
Yeah, you might just like need to expand your horizons a bit. That
Yeah.
could be it. So before you go
Okay.
spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a new house, why not take a vacay first and see what happens there?
You sound
Or
like my
like,
husband. He's always trying to tell me the like rational, logical thing we should be doing. And I'm like, why? I mean,
but
why not just
why?
go to like Antarctica for 2 weeks? Like that
Yep.
sounds cool. Let's go do that.
Right? And that's the key is like your energy is like what sounds so cool for me right now.
Yeah.
Because you just need to be stimulated. So maybe
Yeah.
it's like a class that you take, like a semester of something or whatever, like learn whatever it is. But let yourself feel mentally stimulated and then see if you still feel the urge to move.
Okay.
Um, and it could have to do with your actual physical environment too, in a way. Like your environment is valleys. So the way that your energy and your frequency is going to thrive is when you are in some sort of energy. It doesn't have to be just your physical house, but you're in the energy of like having your finger on the pulse and knowing what's going on. You might not be familiar with Nantucket because you're not from Massachusetts, but I recently did a workshop where there was a woman there who was valleys and she was like, "Oh my God, that's why I love going to Nantucket so much because it's such a small island. I know what's happening at all times." So, how can you harness that energy in your house, in your community, like whatever, like knowing what people are doing, knowing what's going on, that's something that's going to be really beneficial for you. So, do you have that in your community or in your house right now?
Yeah. Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel like there's been a lot of disruption or like upheaval. And I think probably everybody feels this like post holidays, right? Like the
Oh,
holidays are
yeah.
just chaotic and crazy. And now I feel like the there's been a strong desire to reestablish order among the
Yes.
chaos.
Cosmic order. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So you're just feeling a little bored. That's what it is. So whatever can stimulate you.
Okay.
Um, will be a good first step before you uproot your whole life.
Okay. I mean, I guess if we have to be reasonable.
Yeah, I guess, sure. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Okay. So I will send you this recording. Download it on your end because I have to clear my Zoom drive like pretty often. So download it on your end if you want to keep it. Revisit
Okay.
it often. There's going to be new stuff that you come back to. You're like, oh shit, I forgot she said that.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have any questions, just pop in the Magnetic Rebellion chat or hot seat or whatever. We can always do follow-ups that way.
Okay.
Um, sorry, is that it? Anything else we need to tell her? Oh, they just want you to know you're doing a really good job. At what? Oh, at lifing.
Oh,
I
thank
was like,
you.
I like being a mom. And they're like, everything, everything. They feel really proud of you. Why am I
Aw.
gonna cry? Okay, so there's something like really emotional coming through. They're really, really proud of you. Whoever they is, I don't know. It's whoever is your guides on your side are really proud of you. So I hope that you're proud of you too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll send you this email with the recording in a little bit, and then I'll see you inside the community.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.